Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Sherrone Moore, this Michigan program, working their way through spring practice. And, as a Michigan fan myself, we've talked a lot of Michigan ball over the last couple of weeks. And, most of our conversations have revolved around the new faces, primarily quarterback Bryce Underwood. And let's just be clear about it. We're hearing all the right things from what's going on with Bryce Underwood and how he's looking during spring practice. The storyline, at least in my opinion, that is flying under the radar for this Michigan program going into 2025 is Chip Lindsey taking over this offense. This is going to look different for Michigan on the offensive side of football in 2025. And it's not only because you have a quarterback in Bryce Underwood who just dramatically opens up the offense in terms of things you can ask Bryce Underwood to do that you couldn't ask Davis Warren to do. But Chip Lindsey, it's going to look different in terms of the personnel groupings we see, in terms of the scheme, in terms of how we attack opposing defenses. You're starting to hear some early returns regarding what this Michigan offense is going to look like in 2025. I think most notably wide receivers like Freddie Moore, Donovan McCulley getting up in front of the media, both saying that we're going to be attacking vertically downfield a little bit more in the passing attack, but it doesn't stop there. There's going to be a lot of things that are different from Michigan from a schematic standpoint in 2025. Want to get into what to expect, some early returns that we're hearing from spring practice. Before we get into it, as always, the Michigan fans, appreciate you guys. I've been saying it all spring practice long. As a lifelong Michigan fan, this is by far the most exciting spring practice that we've gotten to follow along with. And it's been a blast for me talking it. The amount of support the Michigan fans have shown the boys has been amazing. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. I think what we're going to do for the Michigan spring game, just do a live watch party with all of you and just kind of watch it together, talk about what we're seeing. I'm super fired up about that. We'll talk about it when it gets a little bit closer. Appreciate you guys. Without further ado, let's get into it. Now, I want to start with probably the most important question that Chip Lindsey has to answer during spring practice, and that is, who are your playmakers going into 2025? Now, it starts with Bryce Underwood. He can be the engine of the offense, and you can't say that for a lot of quarterbacks, right? Across the country, there are, some really good quarterbacks in college football. Not all of them can be the engine of the offense. When you look at Ohio State, what they're doing going into 2025 with the quarterback like Julian Sayin, I think Julian Sayin's a very good quarterback. He's not necessarily going to be the engine because the playmaking ability, what he can do from an athletic profile is probably not, it's quite frankly not even close to what Bryce Underwood can do from an athletic profile standpoint. So it starts with Bryce Underwood in kind of identifying the ways you want to use him, not only as a pocket passer, but what he can do as an athlete, getting outside the pocket, facilitating the run game. But I think secondly, hey, our pass catchers, our running backs, how do we and who do we want to run this offense through? And you go back to Chip Lindsey, and I think most notably what you saw from him the last 2 years at North Carolina. Yes, the scheme's going to be different. The scheme really doesn't matter if you don't know who your playmakers are. And one of the things I love about Chip Lindsey is he's been a guy that you follow his coaching career, wherever he's at, it's player centered. Hey, who are our best players on the offensive side of the football? How do we get them involved? And how do we let them go make plays for us? And as we've seen right now, I think the playmakers in this offense, at least sitting here in spring practice, the guys that we've heard the early returns about specifically have been in the running back room with Justice Haynes and Jordan Marshall. I think there's some growing buzz that could be one of the best running back duos that you see in the country to go along with a phenomenal athlete at the quarterback position in Bryce Underwood. And that's one of the things that I appreciate about Chip Lindsey is, in 2024 at North Carolina, when he didn't have all that good a quarterback play, he rode the heck out of Marion Hampton, who was one of the best running backs in the country. Both years that Chip Lindsey was at North Carolina, Marion Hampton went for over 1,000 yards. And so he's a guy that in 2023, who are your playmakers? It was Drake May, it was Devontae Walker. The offense was kind of built around those two in the passing attack. But then you fast forward to 2024, Marion Hampton, clearly the best player on that offense. We're going to go get him the football. Now, it's probably too early to tell who the wide receivers are that are emerging. You've heard good things from true freshman Jamar Broder. You've heard some really good things from Freddie Moore and Donovan McCulley. Those are some of the names that might be featured a little bit more in this Michigan offense. I think throughout spring practice, potentially in that spring transfer portal window going into fall camp, the number one question you're going to see Chip Lindsey continue to try to answer is, hey, who do we want to build this offense around? And who do we want to go into a Saturday football game against and say, these are the guys that we want to get touches to? Now, number two, and we kind of hinted at this, the balance that Chip Lindsey brings. I think one of the big reasons that Sherrone Moore went with Chip Lindsey to take over this offense was, Sherrone Moore doesn't want to lose the recipe that has separated Michigan in the college football landscape. And go back to 2023, Michigan's offense was significantly better, but the recipe was kind of the same. And that is, hey, we want to control the time possession. We want to control the line of scrimmage and let our defense really smother opposing offenses out. Now, in 2024, it didn't work all that well because our offense was so poor that it couldn't really stay on the football field, and the defense had to play way more than we wanted it to. Chip Lindsey is going to come in, and he is known for developing passing attacks, and he is known for developing quarterbacks, but at the same time, he's not going to lose the identity of what Michigan wants to do as a program, especially under Sherrone Moore. And that's run the football. And again, you go back to his time in North Carolina, even with Drake May at quarterback, Amarian Hampton was still a 1,000-yard rusher. North Carolina still had a very, very effective run game, especially in 2023, even though you had a star quarterback in Drake May. You're going to continue to see balance, and you're even hearing that from some of the running backs and offensive linemen who clearly want to run the football, is that the idea of smash has not left this Michigan program. Now it's going to look a little bit different. It's going to come from a little bit more of a spread offense. We're not going to see as much condensed formations, 12 personnel, but you're still going to see Michigan try to run the football. And I think that's one of the fundamental reasons that Sherrone Moore went with Chip Lindsey. He develops quarterbacks really well. That was objective number one. Get somebody in there that can do wonders for Bryce Underwood in his development. But let's get somebody in here who also at the same time is not going to lose the identity of this Michigan team, the identity that's allowed Michigan to really be one of the top programs across college football over the last 5 years. Now, yes, it's still going to be smash, but a little bit of sprinkle in, there's that vertical passing attack. Now, when Chip Lindsey has a special talent at quarterback, you really start to see this. And you've heard the wide receivers talk about this in the press conferences. Hey, this Michigan team is going to push the ball vertically down the field way more than it did in 2024. And I think part of the reason Chip Lindsey came to Michigan was you got a quarterback that you can do it with. And you go back to when Chip Lindsey had Drake May at North Carolina in 2023, Drake May's average depth of target was 11 yards down the field. Almost 20% of his attempts traveled 20 plus yards down the field in that 2023 season. You want to quickly compare those numbers to what Michigan was working with in 2024. Davis Warren's average depth of target was 6.5 yards down the field. So Drake Mays was nearly double. And Davis Warren only attempted 7% of his attempts 20 plus yards down the field. Completed 6 all year. In Michigan, Davis Warren completed 6 passes that traveled 20 plus yards down the field all year in the 2024 year. You are going to see the verticality of this offense, and it's probably going to start with running the football, and then working off play action and working with our deep shots. And it's kind of how all of us Michigan fans want this offense to look. Hey, we want to be able to run the football. And when defenses start to put 8-9 guys in the box to try to deal with this Michigan rushing attack, that's when we can go push the ball down the field. Who are the wide receivers that are going to allow Michigan to push the ball vertically down the field? I don't think it's a coincidence that Sherrone Moore invested a lot of time and resources getting some big body wide receivers to come to this program. Donovan McCulley goes 6'5", 200 plus. Jamar Broder, 6'5", 200 plus. I mean, these are some big wide receivers that can work vertically down the field. I'd probably throw a guy like Kendrick Bell into that as well. You're going to see Michigan not lose their identity of running the football. But, hey, there's a reason that not only we went out and got Bryce Underwood, but we went out and grabbed guys like Donovan McCulley and Jamar Broder because we want to have a better presence vertically down the field. We want to be a little bit more explosive. The other thing is attacking the boundary, which Michigan really just couldn't do in 2024. Davis Warren going opposite hash to boundary didn't have big enough arm. There's quite frankly just not a lot of quarterbacks at the college football level that have the ability to attack the boundary on a consistent basis. There's not enough quarterbacks that have the arm that big. Bryce Underwood's one of them. And so now you have a quarterback that you can attack vertically down the field. You can attack to the boundary. You're going to see Michigan try to attack a little bit more space and get the football to their playmakers in space too. Because you go back to Chip Lindsey, and one of the other key things you like about his offenses at North Carolina. Go back to 2024. North Carolina only threw for 2,900 yards. They struggled at quarterback play, had a couple of injuries, but they still were able to manufacture over 1,600 yards after the catch. Hey, we can still get our guys. There's a couple of different ways to hit explosives in the passing attack. One is pushing the ball down the field, taking deep shots. But the second is, hey, get the football to a guy like Samaj Morgan in space, and let's see what he can do after the catch. And you're going to see Michigan try to do that. And I think you're going to see a decent amount of the screen game, which Chip Lindsey went to, I believe 15% of the throws that North Carolina ran in 2024 involved screens. We got some big bodies who can block on the perimeter. And we got guys like Samaj Morgan, Freddie Moore, Anthony Simpson coming from UMass who can operate with the football in their hands. From what you're hearing from Michigan coming out of this spring practice so far is that there's going to be more emphasis attacking vertically down the field, and you can do that because you have Bryce Underwood and you have some big-bodied wide receivers. But at the same time, we're not going to lose what got Michigan to this spot in the college football landscape, and that is controlling the line of scrimmage, running the football. And I would go, and as a Michigan fan myself, this is probably my take on the offense. Who are the best two players on offense outside of the quarterback spot? To me, it's Justice Haynes and Jordan Marshall. Michigan's going to look to run the football. That's what we're hearing so far. It's going to be fun to see what the spring game brings. And we're not going to see the full Chip Lindsey offense in the spring, but you're probably going to get a sense of not only what Chip Lindsey wants to do, but who are the playmakers that Michigan's going to try to go through in 2025, which I think is the biggest question mark we have going into, fall camp in the 2025 year. Who are the guys that are going to make game-changing plays for us on offense? Starts with Bryce. It starts with the two running backs. It needs some pass catchers to step up. And I think you're going to see that because you have a little bit better quarterback play and you have a little bit more opportunity to do things you want to do on offense versus 2024. We'll close it out there. Don't let the Chip Lindsey offense fly under the radar. We all want to talk about Bryce. I want to talk about Bryce. If it was up to me, we talk about Bryce every single dang day. But the Chip Lindsey offense, the new offense that we're going to see to go along with a very talented quarterback, really big storyline as well as Michigan goes into 2025. We'll close it out there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.